When the trailer for Barbie first dropped, I was really excited. I'm a big fan of Greta Gerwig, and the film looks like a lot of fun, both stylistically and tonally. I had one little skeptical question floating around in my noggin, and that was, can a film be radical and carry an effective feminist message if it also needs a stamp of approval from the corporation that owns the property you're going to be criticising? The film is, after all, produced by Mattel's in-house film division, Mattel Films. It's a bit like if Black Mirror wanted to feature Facebook or Twitter in one of their episodes and had to curb their critique in order to get approval from the respective CEOs. And although the film was a lot of fun and had me laughing through the majority of the runtime, I think this odd setup did blunt a lot of the more pointed observations that the Barbie film probably wanted and needed to make. So I was going to start this video with a stupid joke disclaimer stating that although I have criticisms of Barbie, not to worry because I'm not an incel or a right-wing grifter. But that did make me think. The conversations around this film seem to be very black and white. There are two main camps. You either love the film, warts and all, criticize it at your peril, or you're a very angry and broken person who hates everything that Barbie is saying or doing with every fibre of your being. Now, I liked Barbie, but I felt that, for the reasons stated at the start of this video, that the political and social commentary felt very muddled. So let's just explore this in a nuanced, civilized sort of way. The main folly and joke at the start of the film is that Barbie dolls clearly have not had the overwhelmingly positive effect on the world that the characters in Barbie Land believe they have. Barbie Land is make-believe, fiction. It doesn't reflect the reality of the real world, which comes as a complete culture shock. Margot Robbie and the other characters are depicted as naive and foolish for thinking otherwise. Following Barbie and Ken's arrival in LA, Barbie meets Sasha, a young woman who, outside of calling Barbie a fascist, effectively articulates a lot of the more harmful stereotypes of the Barbie dolls and the way they have been marketed to children. And yeah, of course, Mattel doesn't actually care about real equality or women's rights. Their sketchy history when it comes to many of their workers rather depressingly highlights this clear contradiction. They're a business. Their main goal is to market dolls to young children, whether they're promoting harmful stereotypes or not. But the thing is, Sasha makes this point, and then it's never really addressed. In fact, she's shown to be some sort of bully, like, oh, don't say those very true things because you'll make Barbie cry. As the film reaches its climax, Sasha abandons this point of view. Her opinions are never challenged or shown to be wrong in any way. They're just sort of forgotten. I suppose because she doesn't like the patriarchal world Ken has imposed upon Barbie Land and is impressed by her mother's passion and drawings. But again, that doesn't really have much to do with her initial criticisms and rejection of Barbie. The Barbies reclaim Barbie Land, and it becomes a film about tearing down the patriarchy, whilst at the same time not really addressing the corporate capitalist elements of Mattel that have helped to perpetuate some of the harmful stereotypes addressed within this very film. There are occasional references like the initial Sasha conversation and the fact that the Mattel boardroom is full of men is funny, but the Mattel execs are actually depicted as being so comically inept that it kind of resolves them from any wrongdoing. Like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, what a bunch of comical idiots. When in reality, this company knows exactly what they're doing. It's a corporation that targets children, and I can't help but feel they get a bit of a free pass from this film. I don't feel like Gloria pitching a normal Barbie with the execs agreeing because they think it will sell well is an honest or serious way to address the more complicated and problematic elements of the Barbie brand brought up by Sasha. Not only do Sasha's views and opinions get pushed to one side, the creator of Barbie is used as this elder stateswoman figure that helps guide Barbie in what to do with of her life. I understand that there is a point to be made. Barbie has also brought a lot of joy to young girls, and that's maybe what they're showing with Ruth Handler here, but it's very strange to mainly present this positive perspective of her when you're also kicking aside the criticisms made by characters like Sasha. Now, the following is a minor nitpick because I think the film does address some of this stuff, but I think that Barbie's own story here could have been more of a focused and pointed criticism of Mattel. The arc of wanting to become a full person, a full woman, is compelling, but again, it feels a little confused. Her crisis is sparked when she begins to feel things. Thoughts of death linked to the mother's character and wanting to experience real life and emotion. It's a fine story for a character to have, but it's not especially relevant to what we know about the Barbie character. Surely it would have been thematically prevalent for Barbie's arc to be incited by the tiring and overwhelming standards constantly expected of her, tying her story to the many criticisms already made of the Barbie toys. And while there are elements of these expectations sprinkled throughout, the cellulite joke was funny, and they also made a reference to Barbie not wearing makeup and thinking herself unattractive because of this, which also led to a pretty funny meta moment, but I felt like it took a back seat, jokes and throwaway lines opposed to a real driving force of the character's story. Now, this might be a case of my memory failing me, but outside of that one scene shared with Gloria, I never got the sense Barbie suffered under the weight of those physical expectations. And sure, the cellulite and flat feet stuff as a result of Barbie's changing status quo make her worried about being ostracized like Weird Barbie. But Weird Barbie doesn't have much to do with body image, does she? Her hair's kind of messy and she has some pen on her face. Barbie makes passing comments about beauty standards and stereotypes and jokes, and then sort of tiptoes around the role Barbie has in some of those issues. As Verity Ritchie points out in their excellent video, Barbie will sit in a park and tell an old woman that she's beautiful, but then the Barbie brand is also used to market anti-wrinkle cream. There are clear and uncomfortable contradictions that come from partnering with a large corporation and at the same time trying to use that corporation's product to deliver this anti-patriarchal, pro-feminist message, because let's be honest, capitalism plays a large role in the existence of systemic sexism. Barbie is a fun film. The production design, the performances, the comedy, it all works, but I'm just not entirely sure what the film is up to. I think it often gets lost within its own metaphors and world building. Is this a film about Barbie entering reality, realizing and acknowledging some of the negative influence she's had on young women in spite of the make-believe matriarchal world that exists in Barbie land? Or is this simply a story about a character who happens to be Barbie, realizing that the real world is very sexist in comparison to where she came from? In my opinion, one premise is more interesting than the other. Sasha was a perfect foil for Barbie, a real challenge to the way she views the world, but this gets lost in a pretty underwritten mother-daughter bonding story. Honestly, I was really looking forward to an exploration of some sort of common ground here. Barbie does have obvious flaws as a product, but at the same time, I don't think I'd care if my non-existent theoretical daughter wanted to play with a Barbie toy either. That seems like pretty fertile ground for exploration, and truthfully, I feel like the film tends to bounce between making brief criticisms of Barbie and then forgetting these observations entirely. There's a lot of good that can be taken from this film. It's great that so many people connect with it. It's great that Greta Gerwig has broken the box office record for a film directed by a woman, but ultimately, I think there's an uncomfortable elephant in the room. It articulates the fact that we live in a patriarchal world without identifying and pointedly criticizing the brand our titular character is attached to, a brand that certainly plays a part in the negative body image and stereotypes within that patriarch. This film is excellent PR for Mattel. They get to laugh along and be associated with this highly successful pro-feminist film directed by a highly acclaimed filmmaker without receiving a whole lot of flack themselves. But of course, Mattel don't really care about feminism. They're a corporation that will sell even more toys as a result of this this film. And in a weird cyclical marketing loop, they will now make a ton of profit from selling dolls depicting the characters from the film that were cast to parody the appearance of Barbie dolls. Yes, the film has a diverse cast, and that's great, but it rubs me up the wrong way when I see Mattel talk about how this reflects their modern values, but not reflect someone from the cast like Sharon Rooney within their own products. Their more accessible, curvy Barbie is still slimmer than the average size of women in the UK and US. There's just a weird paradox that exists when your film's identity is so closely related to a company like Mattel. Margot Robbie maintains that this isn't a Barbie puff piece, and I agree. I wouldn't go as far to say it is. But at the end of the day, the film was commissioned by Mattel. It doesn't matter that the film makes jokes at their expense, because it's the most effective and invisible adverts they've ever created. In addition to the fact that Mattel has now slated about 15 other films to be produced as a result of Barbie's success, I can't help but feel the point has been lost somewhere along the way. So they were some of my thoughts on Barbie. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree. Don't want to poo-poo on anyone's parade, but just thought it was an interesting conversation worth having. And to be honest, if Barbie is the parameter of quality, that might be the highest grossing films of the year now, then that's pretty good. It is ultimately a very creative piece of work. Please do consider slapping me an old subscription and a like on this video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.